Pauper is a format all about synergy, but Pauper Elves takes that to a whole new level. Pauper Elves is an aggro combo deck that may seem linear and easy to pilot on the surface, but has a ton of decisions that can drastically change the outcome of the game. First, let's take a look at our mana base. We only run 12 forests and 1 island for a total of 13 lands. Yep, that's it. For those of you who have never seen a Pauper Elves list before, the single island may seem out of place, but don't worry, I'll explain it later. Why do we run so few? Because we play a lot of mana producing creatures. I like to break down our mana producers into 2 tiers. The lower tier of mana producers consists of a 3-2-3 spread of Llanowar Elves, and functional reprints of Llanowar Elves in the form of Elvish Mystic and Fyndhorn Elves. The reason we are running the 3-2-3 spread is to minimize the effectiveness of cards such as Echoing Decay and Echoing Truth. Our higher tier mana producers are playsets of Priest of Titania and Birchlore Rangers. Priest of Titania adds 1 green mana to your mana pool for each elf on the battlefield, so it counts your opponent's creatures as well. This can be relevant against Stompy, Affinity, and especially the Elves Mirror. Oh man, if you've never played the Elves Mirror before, oh gosh, it's crazy. Priest is only the beginning of the silliness that the Elves Mirror match is. Birchlore Rangers has a unique mini Heritage Druid-like ability that allows you to tap 2 elves to produce 1 mana of any color. This is useful for both producing extra mana as well as producing blue mana, which is important for one of our payoff cards. Birchlore Rangers is especially synergistic with Nettle Sentinel, which we play a playset of. Nettle Sentinel doesn't untap during your untap step, but instead untaps each time you cast a green spell. The synergy with Birchlore Rangers works like this. If you have both out on the field at the same time, you can tap Nettle Sentinel and Birchlore Rangers or any other elf to produce 1 mana of any color. Then you can use it to cast, say, a 1 mana creature. This, in turn, untaps the Nettle Sentinel, allowing you to then tap both the Nettle Sentinel as well as the new creature to produce another mana of any color. You can keep this train going as long as you have creatures and mana to cast them. Just like Priest of Titania, all of our payoff creatures count the number of elves on the battlefield, so pay attention to that. These cards all just get plain crazy when playing the Elf Mirror match. These payoff creatures are the reasons why we are playing elves. The synergy with these creatures is unreal. Our first payoff creature is 3 Elvish Vanguards. Elvish Vanguard was recently downshifted from a rare to a common, and slots very nicely in this deck. It gets huge fast as long as you sequence it correctly. Let's use this hand as an example. On turn 1, we play Nettle Sentinel. On turn 2, we play a land, attack with Nettle Sentinel, then cast Birchlore Rangers, which untaps Nettle Sentinel. We then tap Nettle Sentinel and Birchlore Rangers in addition to the forest to cast Elvish Vanguard, which untaps Nettle Sentinel. We can now tap the Vanguard and Nettle Sentinel to cast a 1-drop, and rinse and repeat, dropping the rest of our hand. While this won't happen all the time, it's important to be aware of the explosiveness that the deck can actually have. 4 Timberwatch Elves makes combat much more scary for our opponents, as just 1 unblocked creature is dangerous with this thing on the board. Also, remember that it can be used to save itself if targeted by damage-based removal. Next up is a playset of Lys Alana Huntmaster. It is a 3/3 for 4 that creates a 1/1 Elf Warrior token each time you cast an elf, allowing us to go wide and add to our elf count. Try to drop this as early as you can in order to take advantage of the ability. Our last payoff creatures are a pair of Well-Wishers. These let our life total get out of hand fast. An unanswered Well-Wisher is just game over for many decks, especially the aggro ones. 4 Distant Melody is our final payoff card, and oh man is this thing awesome. It's the sole reason for splashing blue, and for just 4 mana, we can draw a card for each elf we have on the battlefield, which hopefully is a lot. This, paired with a Priest of Titania and a couple elf spells, is game over for our opponent, as we can most likely play all of the creatures we draw with all the mana that we have. Our final group of creatures are the utility creatures. The first being 2 Elvish Visionaries. These add to the elf count and replace themselves. Can't get much better than that. Next we play 2 Sylvan Rangers. These add to our elf count and let us search our deck for a basic land and put it into our hand. This is usually used to search up our Singleton Island so we can cast Distant Melody. The real utility creature and all-star of the deck is one of my favorite cards, Quirion Ranger. Quirion Ranger is a 1/1 for 1 that lets you return a forest you control to your hand to untap a creature. This means that it's essentially another copy of any of these cards if they are on the battlefield. Note, you can only use this ability once per turn per Quirion Ranger. This means that if you have a forest in play, you can even use this on your opponent's turn to create a surprise blocker, or untap a Timberwatch elf to use to buff a blocker. It really shines on turn 2 if you have played a mana creature on turn 1 but only have 1 forest. You can tap the forest to cast Quirion Ranger, then tap the mana producer, and then use Quirion Ranger's ability to untap the mana producer and return the forest to your hand, which you can then play and tap in addition to tapping the mana producer again. At the end of this process, you will have 3 mana in addition to getting a Quirion Ranger onto the battlefield. There are 2 cards left in the main deck. The first is a single Wirewood Pride, for a surprise oops, I win, or to protect a creature from damage-based removal. The last card in our deck is Viridian Longbow. Getting this on the battlefield in the Elves Mirror matchup will most likely win you the game. And with the uptick of Elves decks in the meta, having a Viridian Longbow in the main deck for the Mirror can be huge. Getting off to a quick start is what Elves need to survive. When looking for an opening hand to keep, look for no more than 2 lands, or 1 land with mana producers, and a mix of payoff cards and mana producers. While it's important to flood the board with creatures, it's also important to know when to hold back, as just 1 board sweeper is usually game over for us. The deck's strengths are it's explosive, it's very synergistic, and it's surprisingly skill intensive. Its weaknesses are it's fragile to board sweepers, it mulligans poorly, and it's very hard to recover from early game removal. For our sideboard, we play 4 Gleeful Sabotage for the Boggles and Affinity matchups, 3 Scattershot Archers to deal with flyers, and by the way, these pair up very nicely with Quirion Ranger, 3 Rapid Vigor to beat board sweepers, 2 Wirewood Heralds to be used to search up our payoff cards, 2 Well-Wishers for added life gain, and 1 Viridian Longbow for added help with the Mirror matchup. Other sideboard options include Aerial Volley to deal with flyers, Spider Silk Armor to deal with flyers and board sweepers, Tangle to deal with decks that swing in with huge attacks, Magnify for even more board sweeper protection, and Relic of Progenitus to deal with graveyard-based strategies. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. We've already passed the 100 subscriber mark in 2 videos. That's crazy. I can't thank you all enough for the support, and I'm very grateful. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and share the video. And if you're interested in the deck, I put a link in the description that will take you to the deck list on mtggoldfish.com. There you can see the prices for both MTGO and paper. Also, don't forget to please follow me on Twitter at Pauper_Fox, as I will be tweeting out my progress as I'm making videos so you can stay up to date. And as always, don't forget to check out the Pauper subreddit r/Pauper for all your Pauper needs. Thanks again, everyone.